Hi guys, Sandra here and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to review Arteza Gouache. Artisa reached out to me asking me if I was interested in collaborating with them. From a long time I wanted to try their gouache, so I'm very happy of this amazing opportunity to collaborate with them and to make this video for you. If you don't know about Arteza, they are a creative group of people that provides top quality yet affordable art supplies and creative tools for artists. You can find art supplies for different mediums such as acrylic, watercolors, pencils and more, but today I'm going to review their set of 24 gouache colors and their watercolor paper, which are the products that they sent me. If you are new to my channel and this might be the first video you watch from me, gouache is the medium I use the most, so I believe I'm able to give a proper review. And just saying, this review is going to be based on my personal way of working with gouache, and I'm going to share my honest opinion about these products. Okay, let's start. First, I will talk about the products, and later in the video I will share my experience about them when you will see me painting some illustrations. I will start with the watercolor paper. I received 2-pack set of the same paper. They are cold pressed watercolor pads, acid-free, 300 GSM. It's dual-sided, so on the front we have a textured surface and on the back side we have a smooth surface. It's glue bound, which makes easy to peel out a clean-edged sheets. The first impression I had is that I loved the paper surface. Cold pressed paper is my favorite surface to work with gouache, but the texture of cold pressed paper can vary a lot depending on the brand, but Arteza cold pressed paper is not too textured and not too smooth either, so it's the perfect surface to my personal preference. Regarding their gouache colors, they comes in metal tubes of 12 ml each, both on the tube and on the package. You have useful information such as light fastness, opacity and pigment used. The opacity is described by square symbol, from empty square being transparent to full square being opaque. Light fastness is rated by plus symbols, from 1+ having the lowest light fastness to 5+ having the highest light fastness. The light fastness of Arteza Gouache is in the middle, so you may want the highest light fastness if you're going to sell original artworks, so the colors have a greater permanence, but otherwise the light fastness is rather good. On Arteza website I couldn't find the exact light fastness rating, but that's what I assumed based on other gouache brands. Then I swatched all the colors, both on white and black background, to have a first idea of their quality. My first impression when I was watching the color is that they are easy to mix, they are pigmented and bright, they don't smell, the paint has a nice consistency to work with a nice smooth application. Usually the semi-transparent and transparent colors are the most difficult to lay down the paint and to obtain a nice flat wash, which you can especially see when I swatched the colors on the black stripe, because transparent colors aren't as covering as opaque colors. The first impression I had is that some colors like sky blue and peach red don't match the color swatch on the tube, which happens for other brands that the paint color inside doesn't match the swatch on the tube, so the package can be a bit misleading. The peach red is almost a neon color, which I'm not sure if you can see in the video through my camera, but I'm not a super fan of this particular color. and I was expecting sky blue to be the color swatch on the tube, but I actually prefer the sky blue color inside the tube. But I have to say that this set of 24 colors have a nice selection of colors. While I was painting different illustrations and I used almost all the colors, I can really say that it's a good selection because you have all the colors you need to start with gouache and you have the main colors to mix different color combinations. Okay, let's start painting. So I painted different illustrations by using gouache both thin and opaque. My way of working with gouache is a mixture of both, but I mostly paint with thin and transparent gouache. I don't usually paint with only opaque gouache and with thick application of paint, but this time I used both techniques, so I believe you will be able to see their quality properly. First, I will talk about the paper. I really love the surface because it's great to paint fine details. So for example, if I would have worked on a more textured paper, I wouldn't have been able to give such fine details to my hydrangea flowers. This paper is dual-sided, so since the back side is smoother than the front side, it's even better for painting fine details on the smooth side, but I personally prefer working on cold-pressed paper because to my experience, generally textured paper absorbs better the paint than smoother paper, and I personally have more difficulties to control the paint on smooth paper. This is my personal preference, but it's nice that Artisa offer double-sided paper for this particular paper block at least, because you get to choose the surface you like working on the most, or also you get to try 2 different surfaces and understand which one you like the most. So I also painted a small part of this same illustration on the smooth side to see the difference, which you will see later, the comparison. I find them to be pretty the same, but the back side is more delicate and easier to damage, so I would recommend to be careful and gentle when sketching and when erasing the pencil's lines on the smooth surface. About this paper, I noticed that it tends to buckle quite easily when you add a big amount of water, but it stays pretty flat if you don't use any water or just a little amount of water. So I highly recommend to tape the paper down with masking tape on a heavy support, as I did for this painting, because after the paint has dried, the paper went back to flat. Another thing I noticed is that this paper absorbed well the paint when I used gouache both fully opaque and fully thin, but when I used gouache in a mixture of semi-opaque and semi-transparent, which I do sometimes when I don't want to lay down a fully opaque wash, the paper didn't absorb the paint in the way I wanted. Compared to other watercolor papers I usually use, I'm not meaning it doesn't absorb well the paint and the water. It has a pretty good absorbance since I was able to overlay layers easily, both with thin and thick application of paint. The color stayed vibrant too, so I believe this paper will work well with other mediums as well, but might not have the best properties and the best absorbency as other more expensive and professional paper. But overall it's a good quality paper for an affordable price. I had an enjoyable experience working on this paper, and I will keep using this paper for sure. Regarding the gouache quality, as I mentioned before, the colors are pigmented and bright. The paint has a nice and creamy consistency, and I honestly had an enjoyable experience using them. It was like painting with the gouache I usually use. They dry in a nice matte finish, they blend well together. I don't really have anything negative to say about them. However, there is only one thing. The only flaw about them is that the paint tends to dry pretty fast, almost too fast, which can be both positive and negative. It depends on how you look at it, but mostly negative for me. It's good because if the paint dries fast on your painting, you don't have to wait a longer time for applying another layer of paint, but especially the paint dried pretty fast on my mixing surface, which led me to often reactivate the paint by constantly adding water. They were easy to reactivate, but the problem is that I lose the paint consistency and color opacity since I have to often add water to reactivate the paint, or add more paint to have a good coverage again. Of course, the more paint I put on my mixing surface, the paint stays moist a longer time. But since I don't usually use much paint, in like 5-10 minutes, it was already almost dry, which it simply took the whole painting process a longer time, and for other things it was a bit inconvenient. I didn't use a timer to see how long the paint stayed moist, but usually the paint from other brands with a more professional quality stays moist much longer. So that's the only negative thing I have to say about Arteza Gouache. But personally, regardless of this flaw, I'm still going to use them because I honestly had an enjoyable experience with them. But yeah, anyway, the colors stayed vibrant and bright, even when mixing many colors together and when painting several layers on top of each other. Well, better say it depends on the color you use and mix, because usually when you overlay too many layers, the colors on paper most likely will get muddy, but I was quite pleased to see that the final colors look nice. The colors blended well even when I was laying down flat and opaque strokes of paint. As I mentioned before, the transparent and semi-transparent colors are usually the most difficult colors to lay down and to achieve a flat wash. So it might happen that the first layer you paint might not have a smooth flat wash and is not very opaque. But what I usually do is simply to paint another layer on top, or also mix a touch of white with the colors I'm using, because adding a little bit of white will help to make the paint more opaque and covering, and to achieve a nice flat wash and matte finish. I'm not the best when it comes to blend colors when applying thick layers of gouache, because I'm not used to, and it's not that easy either, because I usually blend gouache with water, because it's easier to blend colors with water. But the key to blend colors when applying thick application of paint is to use just a tiny amount of water to help blending the colors, but they still have to be wet, and you have to blend the colors before the paint dries on paper. And when you want to add another thick layer of paint, it's always best to not use much water, otherwise you might reactivate the paint underneath and you might ruin the already achieved nice result. But I always recommend to add even a tiny amount of water to gouache when laying down opaque and thick application of paint, because it will help and it will also prevent gouache from cracking. Cracking on the painting or on my mixing surface didn't happen to me with Arteza Gouache. So in conclusion, to me, Arteza Gouache are the perfect starter set if you want to try out gouache. They are good quality paint for an affordable price. I say starter set because for now, as I'm making this video, you can't buy Arteza Gouache colors in single tubes, but only the set, but they might be available in the future. I don't consider Arteza Gouache to be professional with the highest quality paint. There are other gouache brands with better and professional properties. However, they are still good quality, and it all depends on how you work. If, for example, you are like me, that I make painting for practice and for work, but I scan my artworks and I don't usually sell my original gouache paintings, then Arteza Gouache works perfectly for me, and light fastness doesn't have a huge role, for me at least. To me, it's important that they are easy and enjoyable to use, and I achieve the result I'm looking for. Unless I do commissions and sell original artworks, then I use the colors that have the highest light fastness that Arteza doesn't have. So the choice is up to you and what fits you better. I tried few other cheaper gouache with about the same price as Arteza Gouache, but they weren't as good quality and covering as Arteza Gouache. And yeah, I think that's it. If you have any questions, leave a comment down below and I will be happy to reply to you. And since I'm collaborating with Arteza to make this video review, they were kind enough to give everyone a coupon of 10% off with my personal code for a limited time when you purchase something on their website. It can be anything you want among all the art supplies on the website. I will leave all the information about the coupon code, all the links to Arteza website and the products showed in the video in the description so you can check it out. And in the description down below, you will find links to Arteza website for US resident and Europe resident, which have two different links, and you will also see the list of all the European countries that for now Arteza is provided to ship the products. I'm part of their affiliate program, so the links I will leave in the description are affiliate links, which means that if you buy anything through my links, I will make a small commission, but at no extra cost to you. Of course, no pressure, but please consider of using my links if you'd like to support me and support my channel. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!